Just have
It's
fun.
okay.
It's
It's
okay.
okay. They're allowed to be fun. It's
Exactly.
okay. Because the guys who are like, well, what's the purpose of this? I'm like, slow down. All right. The purpose is it's fun because we
Exactly.
like guns.
Exactly.
I'm Ryan Gresham, and this is Gun Talk Nation. All right, welcome to Gun Talk Nation. Today on the show, we are very privileged to have a very accomplished shooter, multinational champion shooter, gun guy, gunsmith, and a great trainer, which this is all stuff we like to talk about on the show. Ernest Langdon, Langdon Tactical. Welcome in, man.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Yeah,
Appreciate
thanks for doing it. So we ran into each other at the Beretta Range Day at SHOT Show. Hence, if anybody's wondering and watching the video, I'm wearing the Maryland Blue Crab, double fisted guns shirt. I don't know. They probably need to have a cool name for this, but a cool shirt I got at that event. So, and you were showing off a bunch of your guns, and I feel like, and this is really funny. You don't know this, but we had Daryl and Eastridge, the revolver guys here yesterday doing
Oh,
some
really?
training.
Yeah.
And you were quoted while they were doing some training. You were credited with, I'm going to try to just pressing the trigger backwards, pressing the front sight backwards on the gun, something like that.
Pull the front sight through the rear sight notch with the trigger. Yeah.
There you go.
You're in the front sight with the trigger. There's I say it a lot of different ways. It depends on what turns on people's light bulb.
Right. That's the mark of a good teacher. You can't just teach it one way. You got to figure out how do they hear it and how does it register with them, right?
Right.
So just that was just a funny thing that happened yesterday. I went, wow, okay. We're gonna be talking to Ernest tomorrow. But we had the guys here doing some revolver training. You're just give people a little bit of background about you and how you got to be what you're up to today, because it's multifaceted with all the different things you do in the gun world.
Yeah, let's see. So 12 years in the Marine Corps, did some teaching, both former instruction as an instructor at Scout Sniper School, and then later at the High Risk Personnel Program, which is an anti-terrorism shooting school, and platoon sergeant, and for a short period of time, had a hostage rescue team that kind of thing. Then got out of the Marine Corps. I went to work for Beretta, did several things for them, and that's when I started kind of competing seriously. I started when I was in the Marine Corps, so that's not really true. I had my first area championship when I was on active duty. Started competing a lot, won some national championships, and then people were like, hey, you should teach, which I already had taught like when I was on active duty, but then I started kind of hung my shingle out there and started teaching. Did that for a while, did a short stint at an ammo company, then started full-time with Langdon Tactical, teaching and working on guns in the early 2000s. Went to work for Smith & Wesson for a couple of years. Then I left there, went to work in the robotics industry for a couple of years, selling to the military, and then restarted the company, the Langdon Tactical, in 2014. So this is our 10-year anniversary being restarted again.
So basically, you just can't hold down a job. That's what we're saying here.
No, I mean, both the Smith & Wesson and the robotics thing were like, they just made me offers that at the time, I just couldn't feel like I could refuse. They were like,
sure,
yeah, well, we're going to do this. I'll pay you this, and we'll give you this bonus. And I was like, well, shit, I kind of have to.
I guess I have to. Yeah. Well, and you get this great variety of experiences doing those different types of things. And I think that you can get to be an expert in one little area, but then you're kind of an expert in one area versus like, okay, there's lots of different types of guns. There's lots of different types of shooting. Hostage rescue is perhaps different than USPSA, right? Like in the way you approach the shooting disciplines. And then learning to teach, I kind of wanted to talk about that for a little bit. So, I mean, you were an instructor while you were active duty, correct? Is that where you kind of started actually learning to teach and instructing people?
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. Um, I've been to, because the military has like formal instruction schools too, where they teach you how to teach. It's typically the military way of teaching. But at the basis or the fundamental of all of it when it comes to firearms stuff is EDIP, explain, demonstrate, imitate, practice. So that's kind of the stuff that resonates with a lot of people. Um, so yeah, that's where it started. And then of course I've taken a remarkable amount of shooting schools. So I've just been
Mhm.
to, I don't even know how many. I should probably keep count and have a tally, but I don't know what it is at this point.
Dozens, right? Dozens and dozens.
Yeah, I mean, no, it's probably close to 40 or 50, somewhere in there. Because I mean,
Yeah.
I went to the gun site, what is it, 250, the basic
Hmm.
pistol
Yep.
in 1993.
Okay. Yeah. Well, and
92 or 93, somewhere in there, like after I got stationed at Quantico and the Marine Corps sent me out there. So,
mhm.
um, Chapman Academy, John Shaw's, or now Mid-South Institute of Self-Defense Shooting. Like,
Yeah.
and those are all 5-day schools. They're not 2-day weekend classes like we have now, but
So I've been to certainly not that many, but been to a handful of different shooting schools and multiple different classes at those schools. And it's hard to communicate with someone who is a gun enthusiast, likes to shoot, maybe they're kind of good at shooting. It's hard to communicate with folks what you can learn at a multi-day shooting class because from what I've heard, you probably have some good idea of this. There's really not that many people who take a multi-day shooting class each year. I mean, I've heard the number is perhaps somewhere between 5 and 10,000 people total. And you think about that in the scope of 90 to 100 million gun owners, it's just a very small fraction of gun owners who are actually investing the time and money to do that. And it's hard to explain, I guess, how would you approach that if somebody says, well, why do I need to do a 2-day or 3-day or 4-day class? And what can I get out of it?
um, I would say that for a lot of them, they don't, the first thing I would say is most gun owners don't know what they don't know.
Mm-hmm.
Meaning they don't even realize how potentially incompetent they are in both gun handling and shooting skills, especially from the standpoint of, their belief is, or a lot of people's belief is that if they go to the range and, hey, I can look at me, I can shoot a group hanging out here with my buddies, but there's no time constraint, there's no social pressure on them, none of that kind of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And that's nowhere near what it's going to be like if they ever have to use a firearm actually to defend themselves or a loved one or anything like that. Um, so learning from that standpoint, they don't realize that they're not really prepared to do things at what I like to use the term limit of human function, meaning that if your life's on the line, you're going to do it as fast as you humanly possibly can.
Mm-hmm.
And they've never tried to shoot as fast as they humanly possibly can. They don't know what that looks like, smells like, tastes like, nothing. But that's what
Right.
they're going to do in a panicked situation. So they're not going to understand that until they've at least somewhat been exposed to it. So immersive type training where you're doing nothing but talking about all the little details that go into doing that. And then having to perform in front of other people. The amount that you can learn in a 2-day class is remarkable. And you either go to classes or have people in the classes like, oh yeah, I've been around guns my whole life. I'm good. And you're like, oh, are you really?
Yeah.
And 3 or 4 drills in, you just see their eyes are wide open. They're like, oh my, I had no, they just had no idea
Yeah.
until they're exposed to it. So it's extremely difficult to explain because if you don't go somewhere where that is going on, you're just never going to understand it.
And you said it well. You don't know what you don't know. And the problem with, and it's true. And the problem with that is they don't, they just don't understand like what you could know here. And then it's the Dunning-Kruger, right? And then the more you learn, the more you realize actually now I'm learning how much I don't know. And now I need to know more. And yeah, you're right. We get those folks all the time who they discharge firearms in a safe direction as a hobby. Okay, cool. You hit the target, you hit the berm, you know how to load and unload your gun, perhaps. But and I kind of almost feel bad for them because sometimes I don't know if you've done enough instruction, you've probably had this happen. People are embarrassed or sometimes even want to leave the class.
Mhm.
And unless they're unsafe, it's like, no, don't leave the class. You'll get there. And it's amazing at the end of day 2 where they are on, versus day 1, the beginning of day 1. It's like, look at you. We're running drills under time. And I
Right.
mean, you're not Ernest Langdon or Rob Latham, but I mean, you're competent.
Yeah, no, I've had a couple of people leave the class because my class is not a basic class. Like
Mm-hmm.
it's people are like, oh, it's just tactical pistol skills. That'd be fine. And like with pretty, we're shooting on the move and shooting multiple
Yeah.
targets and a lot of stuff. I've only think twice, 3 times ever had to tell someone you're done. You're not.
Yeah.
Because some people, to your point, is like they have safe gun handling, but some people don't, and they don't even know they don't. They point the gun all over the place.
Sure.
And I've gone to the policy at this point in my life. If you point your gun at someone else, loaded or not, you're done. I'm not going to
Right.
give you a chance to do it again.
Yeah.
Can't do it.
Yeah. I think there are
Um,
those who have bad gun handling. And then there's also the case of someone being so overwhelmed mentally, they're kind of going into vapor lock where, and I've tried to communicate to the folks who've come here, like, look, that can happen. And don't feel like you have to rush through things because the instructor is like, okay, reholster, unload, show clear, and giving all these commands. It's like, if you're going, I can't even process this, it's okay to just kind of like freeze, guns pointed downrange in a safe direction and go, man, I'm sorry. I'm just a little overwhelmed right now.
yeah, right. Absolutely. And that's okay. I'd have
Mm-hmm.
no problem with that. We're never going to be in that much of a hurry that you can't take your time to process what's going on.
Mm-hmm.
Again, the only time I've had to tell people to leave is when they've ingrained such poor gun handling habits that they don't even realize what they're doing.
Mm-hmm.
They didn't even notice when they unloaded the gun, that they turned it completely sideways and did this and
Right.
pointed it all the way down the line in front of at everybody. And
Yeah.
you like stuff like their brain is just because they've done it for so long incorrectly that they've got poor gun handling skills at a subconscious level. Does that make sense?
They've grooved it.
Yeah, it's what they do. They subconsciously just do poor gun handling and they've never been corrected. And now they're in their 40s or 50s or whatever, and they're they have to stop and start all over. And
Right.
when you in a group setting, when there's people there that are perfectly innocent and don't deserve to have guns pointed at them, you can't go, hey, you should stop doing that. That's
Yeah.
rude. That's
Right. Well, and like you said, that doesn't happen that often.
nope,
Most people are very
super rare.
conscientious about it.
Yeah.
But yeah, you have to be, very low or no tolerance on those types of issues. And it's been a little bit of my crusade with, we have got a media company primarily, but
Mhm.
we've started offering classes and some experience events and things. And it's like, look, I just want you to go get some training. I don't care where you go. I mean, we don't run enough classes to teach that many people. We might teach 200 people a year with,
Right.
10, 15 classes. So go to Ernest Langdon, go to Gunsight, go to SIG Academy, go to whoever, but like
Right.
sign up for a reputable place, which can be kind of tough. We get that question. You probably get that question. How do you know? Because we're coming out of I mean, we're not out of it, I guess, but we've been through this period of a lot of military having a lot of hands-on experience, doing tours, going overseas. And then some of them start training schools, and some of them know their stuff. Some of them are good teachers, some of them maybe not. And so, I mean, what do you tell someone when they say, well, how do I know if it's a good school, if this is a good teacher?
Yeah, I think that's a really good question. I think that for the most part, most brick and mortar gun ranges do a pretty good job of the initial, like you've got a gun and you need to learn how to shoot. They may
Mhm.
not, they're not going to take you to the next level of, becoming a competitive shooter, but at least that initial training, like, let's take you through this because they're a brick and mortar gun range. They've got insurance. There's criteria in place of who can teach stuff normally, right?
Right.
And so most of those do a pretty good job of like the bullet comes out this end and, and I'm being a little bit facetious, but the reality is, again, you need that kind of stuff because there's a lot of little details that are important to becoming someone that is competent and safe with a firearm. One of the things that I know is the case is a lot of instructors, like big name instructors that are traveling the country, their job is not to teach you that stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Like, so you got someone that's traveling the country that is teaching, at a high level. Uh, their job is not, hey, here's, they're trying to take people to the next level. They're trying to
Right.
really improve their skills. So you go start doing your internet research and you see, hey, Donovan Moore, Point One Tactics is teaching a class locally. I'm going to go to his, you know, class and they're going to be drinking from a fire hose is just, that would be an understatement. They're getting thrown into the deep end right out of the gate, not
Yeah.
where they need to start. So it's a very good question that you're asking is like, okay, where does someone make sure they're getting good training? And so you got to start with some good, solid fundamental stuff and then work your way into, other stuff.
In a basic
Have
class,
a really
even
good answer because just because the guy's a retired police officer or he was in the military or something like that, that doesn't give him a pass that he knows what he knows how to teach shooting.
right. Well, and it's kind of like if you're going to go to a race car driving school, they assume you know how to drive a car already.
Uh-huh.
You understand drive and reverse and how a steering wheel works, right?
Where the
So,
brake pedal is and
where the yeah. And so, if you don't know those things, you don't need to start that. You don't need to start at the Haley Barber Racing School, right? I mean,
right.
you need to and probably something like that. That's a great point, Ernest, is like it could be, it doesn't have to be multi-day. And that if you say, I just bought my first gun, it's very possible you could do a 4 hour half day thing and get a lot out of it. And now you've got a few things to work on of just marksmanship and manipulating the gun. And then you're kind of going to maybe the step two of like working from a holster in some basic ways.
Right.
I know a lot of those types of retailers that have ranges, they'll have like a holster clinic. Okay. You're, you've decided to conceal carry. Now what? Right.
Right.
And, all that. So, Ernest, you guys have another way to kind of help get the information out there and train people. And it's actually a free online service. Is that right?
Correct. We have it's on our website. It's Discover is the what we do, but you can find it on our Langdon Tactical website and it takes you to a link with a ton of information about like people early on in their journey. It's kind of my wife's passion project about meeting people where they are on their carry journey and not being so tactical and let me tell you something. When I was in the Corps, that kind of training and making it way more accessible for people to understand. And so there's videos on, how to carry, how to conceal, safety videos, proper draw. My entire shooting class is on there in video format, all of that stuff. So
Wow. That's
I
awesome.
encourage people to go take a look at that stuff and kind of help them down there. There's a lot to be learned there. I don't think it replaces in-person instruction, but it definitely can give you a lot of information and help you down the path.
Well, I mean, and frankly, if you're listening or watching this, it's good information, and it's probably stuff that's great to show to your loved ones. If you're the gun person, but you're wanting to get your son, your daughter, your wife into this. And I mean, I can vouch for what you're going to see there is going to be the correct information.
Correct. Yeah.
Yeah, that's great. Very good.
It's a great resource. And I think you are spot on that we've gotten a ton of feedback from friends of ours and other instructors. And they're like, this is perfect because I've got someone who's just starting out and I can point them to these videos to kind of help them down the path without them, you know, to get them started before I take them to the range. They can learn a lot before they ever get there.
Okay. Discover at langdontactical.com.
LTT Discover. Yep. And if you go to Langdon Tactical, it's linked right to it. And if you go to our YouTube web page or YouTube site, same thing. You can find all those videos.
I love it. I hope that this kind of encourages people to look at different classes and training. I mean, there's only so much you can learn from your uncle who was a cop or the YouTube expert guy. So
Right.
some hands-on instruction from a qualified individual is awesome. Ernest, you make very cool custom guns. After the break, we're going to talk about those guns, and I got to shoot them when I was in Vegas. If you like to save money on your guns, ammo, optics, and all your shooting and hunting gear, go to GunDealio.com. That's GunDealio.com. That's where we curate all the best deals on the internet. But better yet, you don't have to go there. You can just sign up for our daily deals email, and we will shoot the best deals into your email inbox, and you can take advantage of them when you feel like shopping. So GunDealio.com, sign up for our daily deals email. I promise it will pay off. Well, we're talking about training today, and of course, Range Ready Studios is where we put on our training courses. And we have a few cool ones coming up that I wanted to tell you about. One in particular that we just launched on the website is the Crimson Trace Laser Experience. Crimson Trace, weapon-mounted lasers, instinctive activated. They're the ones that really put that on the map and owned that market. And honestly, between Gun Talk, Chris Serino, we have a lot of experience testing out these ideas and really vetting them on the range and teaching them. So the Crimson Trace Experience is a 2-day class. It's April 18th and 19th. What do you get? Well, you get the 2 days of training. You also get to keep a Smith & Wesson M&P 9 2.0. Yes, you keep the gun. Crimson Trace Laser Guard Laser. You're going to have a Weber Tactile custom holster and magazine holder, and all the ammunition is provided. So basically, you show up with a good belt that'll hold all this gear, and you get to train with it for 2 days. You get to shoot all of our ammo, and you get to keep all the gear at the end. It's a pretty ridiculous deal. So go over to rangereadystudios.com, check it out, and sign up. So Ernest, you're a trainer, you're a shooter, but I think not all shooters are gunsmiths, but seems like when you get into the game of shooting, USPSA, IDPA, a lot of them end up being a little bit of tinkerers and gunsmiths and trying to figure out how the gear can help them. Although gear's not always the answer, everybody, but it can actually help you. Talk about where this comes from. Now people can buy Langdon tactical guns, and you've got a wide variety. So I'm not sure where to start here. And I mean, how do you explain that side of the business?
Yeah, so the very good point. Kind of tailing off what you just said, most serious competitive shooters, the guys that are shooting at a high level, especially guys that are like in the hunt for national championships or stuff like that, they know their gun extremely well, right? And a lot of it is because, they can't travel around with a gunsmith or a pit crew that's going to take care of their equipment. They have to take care of it. And they're using that equipment at a very heavy rate. So they're going to have to fix things that break. They're going to have to keep it running. They're going to have to detail clean it. So everyone, like the big guys that, I kind of grew up with, that were the great shooters, Jerry Barnhart, Rob Latham, Todd Jarrett. I mean, the guys that were just crushing it back in the day, they're all gun guys. And I mean, serious gun guys. They know them inside and out. And so, what happened was when I started competing and I was working for Beretta, started keep competing with the Beretta, I had to figure out how to work on my guns to make them do what I wanted them to do. And there weren't any places to go. Oh, I should go order my custom Beretta. Oh, I should get my trigger job worked on. I mean, not really. So I had to figure that stuff out myself. I got some good mentorship from guys that worked at Beretta. I kind of, uh, I would say apprenticed under Trapper John there for a while at a guy in Virginia that ran the Yellow Tavern Gun Shop for quite a few years and those kind of things. And then I just kind of worked my way down the path of figuring out how to do it. So what happens is you go somewhere, you win a match, everybody wants to see your gun. You go over to the safe area, they start playing with your gun and they're like, holy smokes, how'd you do that? I got a
Reminds me of,
will you do my Beretta trigger? And then
so yeah, Clark Custom Guns, right?
Right, right. Like
Jim
I
Clark
want,
Sr. was a
yeah,
good shooter, and he could probably beat you with a lot of different guns, but he would beat everybody, and then he would sell a gun at the match to pay for it, and then go build another one.
yeah, yeah. That does happen. So anyway, that's kind of where it went. And then I started getting when I was at Beretta, started getting Beretta to change the guns a little bit to make them a little bit more appropriate for competition. I'm kind of combining some years together. They're meshing all together. I'm not necessarily going in sequence, but and then when I restarted Langdon Tactical in 2014, there was, John Tamburino and Rafe Bennett were at Beretta and they listened. And I went to them and said, hey, you should do this. And so the original project was getting the Elite pistol back as a gun again. So it became the Elite LTT. We made some really cool things happen with that gun. And so it was basically a factory gun. And then we take that gun and take it to the next level. So there's a lot of different things we're doing right now. That's how it all started.
What are some of the things that you are known for in your guns, the things that you do to customize and upgrade these guns?
I'd say number one is trigger work. Our DASA triggers we're very well known for our traditional double action triggers on the Berettas and HKs and a couple different guns. So trigger work would be number one. Number two is probably one of the things that really helped put us on the map is putting a low mount red dot on the Beretta 92. We had to change the internals of the slide, the firing pin block. I had to redesign all of that stuff so that we could actually get the dot low enough on the slide for it to be appropriate and usable. So very much known for that. Obviously, we do it to the PX4s. We do them to HKs now. We're doing to the HK P30 series, for example, and USPs.
Right.
And with, I don't want to say HK's blessing because it's not official, but our guns were in the HK booth at the SHOT Show, for example.
They must not hate it if they put it in their booth.
Yeah, but it's like something the customers are asking for.
Yeah.
And so we're doing that. We've been very successful with that. So those are the kind of things that we're known for. And obviously customizing the guns. I would say the other thing we're really known for on the 92s and the PX4s is we put a ungodly amount of NP3 on a lot of cool parts to make the gun slick and better looking, and magazines are better and all that kind of stuff. So
Talk
that's
about
kind of
that.
what for.
Talk about MP3, the coating. What does it do? I mean, it adds lubricity, but also
It's corrosion
adds
resistant. It's a nickel Teflon coating that Robbie Barkman came up with. Guys from Coating Technologies. A lot of people know him as Robar.
Robar. Sure.
Robar is no longer in business, but Coating Technologies is still in business. So he kind of patented it originally. And a lot of people think they're doing it, because the patent is expired now, but that formula has been tweaked a lot over the years. And I still think, there's a lot of other guys that say they do nickel Teflon and all kinds of claims, but I haven't seen a lot of it and used a lot of it. The Coating Technologies is the one that's got it figured out the best. So
yeah, it is funny when people will use different types of coatings, and they'll talk about Cerakote, they'll talk about all those different things. And I mean, some of it's better than others. It has different pros and cons, but someone will use like uh, Teflon, nickel Teflon coating, or they'll say Cerakote, and it's actually not Cerakote. It's
Hmm.
someone that's not Cerakote certified. They're not
Hmm.
actually using the Cerakote product.
Hmm.
And then they go, "Oh, this fell off the gun, and or the holster wear came off, or whatever." And it's like there are better and worse applicators out there of some of
Oh
these
yeah.
products.
Oh yeah. It's chemistry. And if you don't, I mean, I think CTI has 3 full-time chemists that work there. I mean, it's not people that just kind of know what they're doing. They
Right.
really know what they're doing,
They're
right?
not painting anything.
They're not, no.
Yeah.
They do. I do think they have some paint processes they use, but their nickel Teflon and some of the other things they do a really good job of it.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's what we're known for. We're also known for, we've come up with what was called the OP trigger bar, the optimized performance trigger bar, that we have dramatically, reduces over travel, the DA is better, the reset is ridiculously short, like all the things you want a trigger to do well, it does well. So,
If you're trying, I mean, it's not going to help you if it's your first gun, perhaps, but if you're trying to kind of get to that next level, you've done a good amount of shooting, done some classes. Um, these are the types of things that can really start making a difference in your shooting, and certainly competition wise, right?
mhm, sure. Yeah, I mean, I don't think that the trigger is unnecessary. Uh, if it's a really bad trigger, a bad trigger is going to make it hard for you to learn how to shoot well because it's not
Yeah.
predictable. Shooting well is about repeatable processes, being able to do the same thing over and over. Well, if your trigger doesn't do the same thing every time, it doesn't break the same way, and it's hard to predict, it's very difficult to learn to shoot well. So trigger pull is important. Doesn't necessarily have to be light, it needs to be consistent.
Good point. Well, trigger is, from everyone who I talk to who knows stuff, trigger is like number one. I
Hmm.
mean, a good trigger press can overcome a lot of other things when it comes to shooting a pistol.
Hmm. Correct.
Talk about the Beretta Tomcat, because that and their new, what is it? Is it PX30? Is that right? We're calling it the P30 or
PX4,
P- no, well,
our PX4 or the 30X.
30X.
Yeah, 30X.
I mean, that was a little bit of a, as far as, I mean, it wasn't, so you have your version and then they have theirs, but that was kind of like, to me, in the handgun section on the Beretta shoot, was like the belle of the ball of like, there was other stuff that was maybe perhaps better or more serious or whatever, but people were like, okay, this is just, what is it
Cool.
about this that I like so much?
So both 32s you're talking about, the
Yeah.
Tomcat, we had our Tomcat, which we direct mill a red dot onto. Beretta's also putting a red dot on theirs. It's a dovetail mount, so it basically replaces the rear sight, so you can bolt an optic onto it. I think the reason it's so much fun is because it's a 32, it doesn't recoil.
Yeah.
So you can just plink and have fun, and it's especially like we had a couple of them had suppressors on them. So not only is it not recoil, it like has no recoil, and then it's quiet, and that just makes things fun. It's like shooting a 22, especially a suppressed 22.
Yeah.
It's just a ball. Like it's a lot of fun to be had there. So I think that's really cool. And there's something kind of, a 32 with a red dot and a suppressor on it's kind of got this whole like James Bond, assassin
Hmm.
kind of look to it. And it's just fun. It's cool. It's just, you enjoy it. And it's not a serious defensive gun or anything. That's why people are like, oh, never carry that for defense. Be quiet. Nobody cares. This is fun. Just have
It's
fun.
okay.
It's
It's
okay.
okay. They're allowed to be fun. It's
Exactly.
okay. Because the guys who are like, well, what's the purpose of this? I'm like, slow down. All right. The purpose is it's fun because we
Exactly.
like guns.
Exactly.
Now, what do you think about the idea of those tip up barrel style guns as an option for people who are maybe not comfortable or just not capable of running a slide on a gun? I mean, do you think that's
Yeah.
has some merit?
I think it does. There are people that are not going to be able to cycle the slide on a lot of pistols. They're just not going to have the grip strength to do it, especially when
Mhm.
people get older. Um, so the tip up barrel makes that really, really easy to, press a button, barrel comes up. I can load the chamber or unload the chamber, which is just as important, by the way. Make the gun safe. And it's a simple process that doesn't require a lot of hand strength. So I think there's a lot of merit to that. And the people that have them for that reason, because of those issues, do really like them. And there's been a couple of Beretta's done quite a few tip up barrels like that over the years. Not just the 32, but they've got a 22 and they've had some 25s and they've had some larger frame 32s that have tip up barrels. So there's a lot of them out there. Right now, I
Mhm.
think the only ones are the Tomcat and the Bobcat.
It's a fun design. I think that I always say that there's a lot of different ways that people enjoy guns, and
Mhm.
some of it is hunting or defensive or long range shooting or whatever it may be. Um, I think that there's a certain group of folks who like the mechanics of guns.
Oh,
So it's a
sure.
particular design that's kind of a unique thing. It's its own little category of like, wow, that's how this works. This is interesting. And if you don't, and if especially if you end up starting to get into it and you kind of like to collect different things, it fills out the category, right? You go, oh, I don't have a tip up gun. I need to own one of those simply
Mhm.
because I don't own one. I want to have one.
Right, right, right. Yeah, no, I totally understand that. I think there's also something to be said along the lines of what we were just saying. There's a lot of people that may not even be that concerned about the defensive use of guns. Let's say that's not the point. Like I'm not going to hunt, I'm not going to defensive shoot, but there's a lot of pleasure and enjoyment to be had from target shooting. And there's a lot of people that, um, you know, I I understand a lot more now than I did when I was younger. Like you go to the range and you see all these old retired guys there, and they're there all the time, shooting and they're doing their bullseye or they're shooting whatever. And I'm like, and finally you realize like, oh my God, that guy's like almost 90 years old and he can still come out here and do this and enjoy it
Mm-hmm.
and be perfectly safe and have fun and shoot well, right? And he can't swing a golf club anymore,
Right.
right? He's not gonna, overhead press anything anymore, right? There's a lot of things he can't do anymore. Shouldn't be riding, probably shouldn't be riding a bicycle, right? But he can come out to the range and he can be perfectly safe and he can shoot and enjoy himself and do all this stuff until he almost can't do anything anymore.
There's
And
there's not a lot of hobbies like that where I mean you could
exactly,
from the
there's
age of 5 to 95, there's something for you in there.
yep, yep.
And
And I
maybe
think
it changes over the years of what you're doing with it. Maybe
right,
you're not doing action pistol because you're 80 years old now, but you're like, I can shoot at a bench and challenge myself to shoot little
right.
bitty groups and maybe work up some loads and have some fun that way with it.
Yep. And I know a lot of those guys now, and I have way more understanding of that now than I did when I was, 20 years ago. I was like, "Pfft." And now I'm like, as I'm getting older, I'm like, that's not necessarily, I kind of relate to that much better.
Yeah. We get a little bit, hopefully we get a little bit smarter as we age, right?
Right.
And we've been talking pistols this whole time, but as I scroll through your website, you guys are doing shotguns as well. And we ought to talk about that because, I mean, you think about shotguns, you think about your history with Beretta. I mean, what are you guys doing? And I mean, how could you be doing this? You're not a shotgun guy, Ernest.
Actually, I am a shotgun guy. I'm not a trap and skeet guy. I have shot skeet, traps, sporting clays, five stand. I've done all that stuff.
Yeah.
Not well, but I've done it. I'm okay at it. Um, but from a defensive standpoint, I think shotguns are like one of the king things. Like if I got to go grab something in my house, that's at the
Hmm.
top of the list because a lot of guys are going to say, oh, it doesn't hold enough bullets. And I'm like, it holds plenty of bullets
Hmm.
because you don't need many. you know, from a ballistic standpoint, it is one of the most devastating shoulder fired weapons, you know, available.
That's a good point because people say pistols aren't great ballistically. Pistol rounds are not great for stopping bad guys. So you need to be able to put lots of medicine into them or whatever. Kind of like what you're saying, like it's kind of the opposite. I mean, especially if we're talking perhaps slugs or buck, it's devastating as long
Absolutely.
as you hit the target.
You're talking, you know, 400, I want to say it's like 437 grains for a 1 ounce load, at, you know, 1300 feet per second. I mean,
Right.
you don't have anything likely in your safe unless it's an elephant gun
Right.
or it's, you know, something like a 50 BMG or something like that. You don't have anything that you could and or should discharge in your house in a defensive
Mm-hmm.
scenario. It's just
Mm-hmm.
not a good idea. So I am a shotgun guy because they're awesome tools. That being said, to be clear, it doesn't kill everything at the end of the hallway like people say. It's, you
Right.
know, inside your house, you're basically still shooting a rifle. It's almost a single projectile. So let's just be clear. But from a terminal ballistic standpoint, it's at the top of the list of things that I have in my safe. So
Well, there's a
there's
reason you guys are putting red dots on these shotguns because they are to be aimed, right?
correct. That is correct. That makes the process a lot easier. Um, we take the 1301, which I think is probably the best semi-auto tactical shotgun on the market. I mean, it is a tremendous shotgun. It's soft shooting, extremely reliable, very durable, especially soft shooting for its weight because it's a relatively light shotgun.
Mm-hmm.
It works well with a broad variety of different loads and all of that kind of stuff. And we kind of take it and tweak it a little bit. We put a Magpul SGA stock on it that's for a Mossberg, so it makes it a little bit more adjustable than the factory stock. The pistol grip, it's not really a pistol grip, but the angle of that makes it a little bit easier for close quarters and short stocking and all that. We also have Chisel Machine has a adjustable aluminum stock, and they have a folder now that
Oh,
works on that, which is really
wow.
cool. Now we can make the package smaller. Um, we put a Magpul fore-end on it, and that allows you to have M-LOK mounting positions on the front, so you can mount lights and hand stops and other things that you need to on the front. Sling swivels if you want to put a sling on it. We do optic mounts, so you can mount a variety of different optics onto the receiver. So now, like you said, we're mentioning we have red dots. We're doing a trigger job to the gun. We have side saddles. We have all the things. So basically, you can get
Wow.
a complete, ready to go tactical shotgun from us. So yeah, it's a really cool shotgun. People love them. You know, when we first started doing it, people were like, "Well, I can buy all these parts and do this myself." And I'm like, "Go ahead, do the math. Go
Do
right
it.
ahead." Do it. You go ahead. And people are like, yeah, never mind. I'll just buy it from you. Because we're getting
Well,
everything at the good guy price. We're buying it in bulk, which means it's the better guy price.
mm-hmm.
We're getting the shotguns direct from Beretta without the stocks on them already. You know, we're doing a lot of the assembly. So our price for that complete package is hard to beat. So
And they look really great too.
it is an amazing looking shotgun. I mean, it's a sexy looking shotgun, and
It's
that's not what
awesome.
shotguns are known for, really. So it's a really sexy looking shotgun.
I mean, if you're a gun guy and you have family and friends who are into it, this is one that if you've got it in your gun room or pull it out of the safe, they go, "Ooh, what's that?"
Ooh, what's that? You know, yeah, absolutely. You're 100% right. Yep.
Yeah, that's cool. Man, Ernest, thanks for being with us today. This has been hella fun.
Yeah. A lot of fun. Thanks for having me.
How do they find out more about what you guys are up to, your classes, your guns, all that stuff?
LangdonTactical.com. Super easy to find. And then we're on Instagram and Facebook at Langdon Tactical. So those are super easy. The not that many classes on the books. Kind of winding all that down because I'd rather, if I've got the time, I'd rather take a class or spend time with my family and all that kind of stuff. So I'm kind of
Sure.
winding down the class thing a little bit. But the as far as what we're up to, Instagram, Facebook, and of course our webpage.
Awesome. Well, thanks a lot, man. We really appreciate the time. Always good to talk to you, and hope to see you again soon.
Yeah, man. You be safe. Thank you.
All right, everybody. Thanks for listening. Thanks for watching. That's it for us. We'll see you next time on Gun Talk Nation. To see all of Gun Talk's content, go to guntalk.com, guntalktv.com, or sign up for the Gun Talk newsletter.